Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Ultra Confusion. We are getting the amazing chance tonight to interview Josh Clark from CrossPad Studios. So,
Yeah.
yay! Don't sound too excited, man. Now, I
No, well, yeah.
now I understand that you have a couple of games out there. Kickstart My Heart is one of them, and I know that you
hmm
said something about possibly working on. Uh, is it? Are you working on a Unity title and an iOS title, or an iOS title that's utilizing Unity? Or
It's the same thing. I'm using Unity to build my first iOS game. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And
Just it. I was gonna say that's just I have the most experience with Unity. So when I decided I wanted to go into the digital side of things, like that was the natural choice for me. So
gotcha. Cool. So, is this game have anything to do with the prototype you showed me at MomoCon?
yes and no.
Okay.
It is a heavily modified idea on
Okay.
that. I actually had a different design that kind of popped in my head, and I started testing. But it actually used a very similar game board.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of combined the two. So really, the outer shell of the one that I talked about with you, the characters, the storyline, all those sort of things played really well into the mechanic that I was making, and I liked the other one better.
Okay.
Um, made a shift. So as far as the mechanics that me and you played at MomoCon,
Okay.
no. I kind of scratched those after not being able to get a good design that I liked.
Gotcha.
So I've got something that's a lot more sturdy. I've already been through several stages of testing with it, so it's moving right along actually. So
Cool. Cool. So, have you
yeah.
actually gotten to the coding stage, or is it still just a prototype?
No, I've started making some scripts for it. I actually just met with a guy yesterday who might be jumping on with me to kind of help me flesh out the coding a little faster.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I've already got some feature lists done and kind of getting that whole organized goal set and all that stuff. I hope to have at least a playable, um, I guess just the mechanics of it playable by the end of the year, and I can start actually digitally testing instead
Okay.
of just on paper.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Um, I know that you had a talk with I believe it's the Athens chapter of the Georgia Game Developers Association.
yeah,
How did that go for you?
it was cool. It was really chill. We actually had me plus four other people show
Hmm.
up, which was really convenient because the game that I was talking about was one that I did for the Athens Game Jam just a couple months before that,
Hmm.
and I had further developed the idea and made this new three-dimensional prototype, and they wanted me to talk about that and then the process, and we were actually all able to play it. Plays up to six people. So it was really cool, and we spent most of the time playing the game, talking about the game, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. We talked a little bit about my whole, I guess, approach to having a one-man studio and how it's incredibly different than most designers.
Right.
Um, but it's that was the brunt of the thing, and really the thing we spent the most time on was just playing the game
Hmm.
because it is. I mean, it's completely playable and ready. I've only got maybe one different little modification I'm going to test out and see if I want to change. If not, then that game it's pretty much done and ready to move on to the next stage of marketing and selling, which is what I am at right now with Kickstart My Heart,
Gotcha.
and it's a whole different beast as
Right.
far
Right.
as like designing games and building it and testing those things. I know
Hmm.
the selling the stuff, getting maybe a licensing thing with a company and all that stuff, that's new territory for me, so I'm kind of having to kind of find my wheels on that.
Right. Right. Now, with this game, is there a specific platform you're going for here, or are you willing to
Well,
port
the
to
game,
different
are you talking, do you mean the iOS game or the game we did at the meeting?
the one you did at the meeting?
The one I did at the meeting is a board game.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it'll be a physical thing, but it lends itself to be easily ported to a digital format.
Hmm.
Um, it it's a very social, very interactive kind of board game.
Hmm.
The players are constantly, talking and interacting with each other. So if I had maybe later down the line a budget for producing a social game,
Hmm.
I would like to do it on a mobile platform. iOS would be my first choice, and then ultimately, hopefully, to Android and maybe even Windows.
Gotcha.
I guess if there's a demand for it. But
Right, right.
this one would easily translate to a digital format, and I'd like to do that. But like I said before, since I'm so new to the selling marketing
Mhm.
side of things, I'm kind of just wanting to get a project out there and done before I go expanding a brand or anything like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. So,
So yeah.
so you've got Kickstart My Heart. You've got this the Athens game jam. The future Unity iOS thing. Are you
And
is Kickstarter even a thought or Indiegogo?
yeah, it is, especially with Kickstart My Heart,
Uh-huh.
because it's the project that's done, and
Gotcha.
I'm in that process of figuring out how to manufacture and everything, and right now I'm kind of pursuing the idea of trying to obtain a license with another company and let them do the manufacturing
Hmm.
and all that, because it's a lot of money up front. It's a
Right.
huge risk, and doing it alone is almost impossible. Not necessarily. I mean, if you just have a whole crap disposable income, then it's not
Right.
impossible. But
Right.
I
Right.
don't
Right.
have that. Um, but Kickstarter is definitely something I'm kind of holding out on for something like that. If this approach to selling it doesn't work out, then I will. And also with the iOS game, right now it's seeming that I'm going to be able to get most of the infrastructure of the game made without having to invest any money in it,
Hmm.
or any money that I haven't already invested.
Right.
So I'm going to try to go as far into that as possible. Now, once I get to the final stages, if I get to a beta phase or I'm wanting to polish, all the art side of stuff, then I might consider doing that just so I could then step away from everything and focus solely on working on that game.
Hmm.
But that won't be until maybe mid next year or maybe beginning of next year at the earliest.
Gotcha.
But yes, I have thought about it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I am a Kickstarter fiend. I have kickstarted about everything across the world. But I have to say that I feel completely stung when it comes to digital games. But like board games and stuff, I'm still willing to kickstart the crap out of any of those
Yeah,
because then you get a physical product.
yeah,
So so
right, right. And it works out a lot better in your favor when you already have something done
right, absolutely. Oh God, yes, yes.
with the Kickstarter. I mean, yeah, that especially with your video, if you have, especially the Kickstart, like I have, and it's weird because my game is Kickstart My Heart and I'm in Kickstarter, so people get confused.
Right.
To have the physical product already there, it definitely lends to Kickstarter being a more ample source of income.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah.
Now, for those out there that are either watching this live or going to be watching the video later, you mentioned that you're part of a game jam, uh, which
Hmm.
um, which I know a lot of people have heard about it, but they don't know exactly what the hell happens at a game jam. So if you could just give us a quick overview of exactly what a game jam is for those people who are trying to figure out if they want to be in games or not.
Yeah, game jams are actually how I started learning
Hmm.
about games and how I kind of became a game designer. It's typically a 48-hour event, usually Friday to Sunday. And depending on the scale of it, there's the global game jam at the beginning of the year, and then there's a lot of organizations that do smaller jams throughout the year. But you have a development team that you either come to the jam with a team already, or as far as the global one, we try to make the team on the spot so you learn some new people, get to know some new people. You are presented with a constraint or theme for the game jam, and your designs have to fit within that constraint. Well, for the Athens game jam, that I made this new board game, and the name of it's Sabotage, by the
Okay.
way. Yeah, it's the theme for that one was bad luck. So you had to somehow incorporate bad luck into your design, and it's really, you have all the liberties in the world. It's not constricted at all. It's just it has to have bad luck in some way, and that's how all the game jams are. And you basically hit the ground running Friday and start cranking out stuff, and by Sunday you present a working game, and it's not a finished, polished game.
Right.
Most of the time, it's maybe level one or a prototype or a beta test or just a really polished presentation of what they want the game to be. It's different things depending on what the game is, but it's good to have as much done as possible so you can at least have a portfolio piece and you get to know some people. It's a huge tool for if you really want to get into the industry or even kind of realize if it's going to be something for you. They're cheap, they're free half the time, and then other times I think I've paid at most $20 to do one, and you get to know a lot of people, you get to network like crazy, and you get to understand what kind of skill sets you need and how you need to get better at whatever discipline you are. So yeah, game jams are incredible for beginners. I did that just for 5 years, and that was the biggest part of my education. And if anyone wants to get in touch with game jams, I guess if you're watching and it's Georgia, if you're in the state of Georgia, you can go to the GGDA. I think it's ggda.org. I might be wrong, but if you look that up, okay, then they can get you in touch with game jams. Whether it's, I know Southern Poly does a couple a year, Athens does at least one or two a year, and then there's the global one that's either at Southern Poly or SCAD. I think they kind of swap them around. But go to that website and you can get in touch with whoever you need to get involved with those things. And I strongly encourage anyone that's wanting to do games to do them, even if you're already doing games, to still do them, because it's a fresh outlook on something that you've been doing for a while. Yeah.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
We as a company at Ultra Confusion, we want the independent gamers or the potential independent developers to get networked so they can create these amazing ideas and actually see them to realization. And
Yeah.
Game Jam sounds like a perfect place to at least to start treading some water.
Oh yeah, no, it's the bet. I would say it's the absolute best thing you could do if you're wanting to get into the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a random question for you.
Okay.
Speaking of independent developers and games and whatnot, what is your
Mm-hmm.
opinion on the Ouya, which is the Android console?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to premise it with I don't own one.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was skeptical when it first was announced. I actually have a buddy of mine who owns a game store in Gainesville, where I live. Wizards Games is the name of it, and he brought it up to me, and I didn't know anything about it, and I looked it up, and it was very interesting. It's just, and I don't know, maybe I'm just jaded with open source stuff, but saying that it was going to be completely open source kind of made me weary. And it hasn't really taken off, I don't think, as much as they would like. And they made some really ambitious statements before it even launched, like saying the thing where they're going to release a new console every year, and that's how they can justify it being $90 or $100 or whatever, and all these things. And I'm like, man, you don't even know if it's going to sell. I mean, and obviously, I mean, it's under a huge platform that's wildly popular all over the world, being Android, but that doesn't mean anything really as far as numbers are concerned. I think as an indie developer, and as much as I would love to have a successful platform like that to develop for, I personally have no intentions of developing for the Ouya. Just because I think, given how it's not, I think it's not been that successful. I don't see it going anywhere near the realm of I'm interested in making something for it. Not nearly much so as, like, say, the mobile platform, iOS and then Android mobile are still wildly popular, and I think they're going to remain so for quite a while. Yeah, that's I'm not an Ouya supporter. Not that I hate them. I mean, I think they did an incredible job with it. I think it's a great looking platform. It's just it comes down to those marketing things of, man, it didn't sell, and if it doesn't sell, I don't want to make games for it, because then no one's going to play my games, and so that's how that goes.
Well, to be honest with you, I think that this is a case of it's it's yet another amazing platform that independent developers can put their stuff out on, and they don't have to get like crazy ass licenses or whatever to put their
Yeah.
stuff there. But at the same time, we're in an era where there's just so many platforms to put your stuff on, and that's awesome. But at the same time, there's so many platforms to put your shit on
Right.
that not everyone's going to have that platform. And I think one of the big issues with the Ouya is that they heavily marketed the shit out of it during its Kickstarter campaign, and now they've gone to this like grassroots, come see it in person kind of campaign. And then they're not talking up any of the games that's actually getting released on the console.
Right.
And then to make matters worse for them, the rumor is Amazon's going to have basically the Ouya equivalent, but an Amazon version by the end of the year.
Yeah, and it being, I guess the Android OS being so accessible that you get a lot of people trying to do that.
Yeah.
And even the whole rumor, I think it's been a rumor for about 5 years now that Apple's going to be releasing a console, and
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever happen, but or at least it'll happen, and it'll take kind of the same path as the Ouya did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think Android is a great mobile platform. I used Android forever. I've just recently converted to iOS this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should stick with mobile. They're doing great with it, and developers want to develop for it. I think there's no need in spreading yourself too thin and trying to take over a market that's already dominated by three very successful companies.
Right. Right.
So.
But in my opinion, I think that the name Amazon and the fact that they haven't a successful Android tablet kind of puts them already ahead of the Ouya, even though it's not even out.
That's true. That's true. Having a company that's already popular, kind of backing it. I mean, it definitely helps, and I think it might do better. And it all is going to depend on how they want to market it and all those types of things, and who they can get on board to doing some release titles for. And yeah, I mean, anything's possible. And I'm not one to say that I know the industry well enough to tell you what's going to be successful and what's not. I mean, I have opinions, but I mean, they're not incredibly justified, more so than just my basic observations.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think it could happen. Like I said, I'm not jumping on that boat anytime soon unless something crazy happens with that Amazon platform. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't fault you for taking that stance. I mean, to be honest with you, simply because we're trying to show as much love to the independent crowd as possible.
Right.
Ouya is a phenomenal platform to kind of give people a different look at things. We were at a convention in Greenville a couple of weeks ago, and we were showing off the Ouya. Not that they were paying us, but we just wanted to show it off because it was just easy and portable for the thing. And everyone's like, "What the hell is that?" And it's like Ouya. I'm like, "Oh, that's the Android console. Well, I didn't even know that was out. Can you play games on it?" So, anyways, oh man, I derailed myself.
That's marketing, man.
Right. Well, exactly. Well, lack thereof.
Right.
One of the things that I think is hurting a lot of these new platforms that are coming out, and I'm coming at it from a journalist perspective, not a developer perspective, is the fact that when these new systems come out, they're getting ports. They're not getting original game content. So it's like, oh, I could play every single one of these games on my Android smartphone or my tablet or my iOS phone or tablet.
Right.
There's nothing special about it.
Yeah, they're going to have to get developers to say, I'm going to make this game for the Ouya or the Amazon thing.
Right, they need that exclusive promise.
Yeah, they need that Halo title. They need that flagship series that starts with them that can get a push. Because I mean, consoles don't sell themselves. Because you're going to have every consumer say, well, what makes that better than my Xbox? I already own an Xbox.
Right.
I already have this invested interest in that, or PlayStation 3, or even Wii U, or Wii. I mean, I have all these things. I already know that it's going to be good, and I know these developers making stuff for it. Yep. Why does that make Ouya any better than this right here?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
This is cheaper, So you're gonna have to get developer support. They can get as many Kickstarter supporters as they want and as much money as they can get. But if they don't have somebody exclusively developing for them, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So I have to ask. It's a very popular question for everybody.
Okay.
What is the game that got you to the point where you're like, damn, I'm a gamer and I want to make games?
Um, I think, and this is such a cliche answer. I think it was Final Fantasy VII. Um, it's the one that you either meet people that say, "Oh my God, I love Final Fantasy," or Final Fantasy VII, it's my favorite one ever, or you get all the people that like any other Final
Right.
Fantasy game as their favorite, and they're like, "Whatever, emo fanboy, what? I don't
Hmm.
care."
Hmm.
But that was my first Final Fantasy game. It was my first serious RPG that I got into when I was a kid, and it I'm a math based person. I was really great at math in high school, and I love that side of education, I guess. And
Hmm.
getting in a turn-based RPG like that, or where the battle was turn-based in an RPG, and you have a million numbers and number systems and mechanics and stuff,
Hmm.
that really kind of turned me on to figuring out how that stuff worked.
Hmm.
Um, and it didn't help that right after I started playing that game, my friend brought over his set of D&D books, and I started
Yes.
looking at those. So you can kind of say that that was part of it too. And I didn't even really get a chance to play D&D. I just studied the game and that sort of stuff. But Final Fantasy VII definitely was one of those things where it's like, man, I want to make one of these.
Hmm.
Like, I want to do this. This is awesome. I've been playing games all my life, and I never really was like, I want to make the next Mario game. And that wasn't really, it for me. But when I
Right.
saw Final Fantasy, I was like, man, that's what I want to get into. That's what I want to make. And I'd like to ultimately make something that large scale, but I'm starting a little bit smaller than that.
Right. Right. I totally understand. You gotta get your name out there before you try some very ambitious project.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so you got Kickstart My Heart out there, you got Sabotage, then you could be working on a Unity iOS demo. Um, I mean, are you basically just going to continue to do board games, or are you ultimately going to try to transition everything over to digital?
I honestly, I'd like to transition over to digital. The board game thing kind of just fell into my lap.
Hmm.
I was doing the global game jam this year, and it's the last weekend in January, and I was working on a team. I was the designer for a team making a digital game for PC,
Hmm.
and I'd kind of for a designer in a game jam situation, the first night you're working feverishly,
Hmm.
like you're crunching out lists and doing all these things, and you have all this work to do, and there's a million things you don't have time. Right about midway Saturday, you kind of get all your stuff done, and it's to the content side of things at that point, and you just kind of sit there and like, if anybody needs anything done, just let me know.
Right.
And I kind of wanted to make a board game for the game jam,
Hmm.
and I just had this weird idea that fit with the theme, and I made it, and it ended up turning into Kickstart My Heart. And I had it sitting in my room, the prototype that I made at the game jam, and I'm sitting here, and that was right after I formed CrossPad Studios in March,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, I need something quick, and that I can have, so where I can at least say, I'm working on this project, this is the title, this is the content, and that sort of thing. I didn't want to just sit there and lull saying, yeah, I made this studio and I don't really have anything to show for it yet.
Right. Right.
So I decided to develop it, and I went all the way through, and next thing I knew, I was hiring artists, and I had the box made and all this other stuff. Now I'm selling this game, and that's kind of what happened with Sabotage too. I wasn't even completely involved in that game jam. I'm in a band, and I had a gig that Saturday, so I wasn't even at the game jam the entire weekend. But I
Hmm.
had this crazy idea in my head, and I started drawing it out, and it ended up being Sabotage. And when I get an idea, I just kind of want to see it to fruition. Um, and so those two board games, it really only happened because I thought of them at game jams. It wasn't like I want to be a board game designer.
Right.
I originally intended on being an iOS designer,
Hmm.
a mobile platform designer. So it's taken a little while because I have spent time kind of getting those two projects up and done to kind of dive into that platform. But that's what I originally intended to design for, and that's what I will um, ultimately shift my focus solely on. Um, I might do a board game here and there in my free time, I guess, because they do you can build them fairly quickly,
Hmm.
even by yourself, especially compared to a mobile platform game or something like that. So I might still do it just for fun and just to kind of have other titles to show, but I will ultimately, I think, shift over to completely mobile, and then maybe I don't know, see where it goes from there. But that's the platform I want to focus on the most.
Cool, cool,
Yep.
awesome. Well, I know we could probably chit chat about several different topics, but I know that I know we still have some time, but I wanted to just to
Yeah.
wrap
Yeah.
it up here so that so we got a clean break here. So I want to first of all thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that
It's
um,
fine.
you it looks like you've got several amazing ideas. You're not. It definitely looks like um, you're when everything is really rolling, you're going to have three or possibly many more ideas that are physical, like physically there. It's not conceptual. You've actually got stuff to show off, which is awesome. Um, Once again, everybody, this is Josh from CrossPad Studios. You've got Kickstart My Heart, you've got Sabotage, and then, of course, hopefully in the future, the masses, will get to see some awesome iOS games. And, of course, don't forget about us lowly Ultra Confusion people. We would love
No
to
way, I won't.
to test them out or to give you a review. But once again, everybody,
The second I have something playable, I'll send it to you.
awesome, awesome, and of course we'll write it up and give you some love for it. But once again, thank you very much, Josh, for taking time out of your schedule. For myself, Charlie from Ultra Confusion, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you soon.
Thanks. Be sure to like me on Facebook. Facebook.com is CrossPad Studios. Twitter's CrossPad Studios. CrossPadStudios.com. Anything CrossPad Studios. I really appreciate the support from everybody. And
That's,
thank you for asking me to do this. I really
oh
appreciate it.
no,
And
no
it's been a
problem.
lot of fun.
And then of course everybody out there, if you need a secondary link or something to any of the stuff that Josh just said, we're going to be trying to post everything with this video on Ultra Confusion.